Imagine stepping through the towering red gates of Beijing's Forbidden City, where the air hangs heavy with incense and the whispers of thousands of silk-robed figures scurrying through endless courtyards. For over 2,000 years, emperors of China commanded an empire from behind these walls. Yet the true masters of the inner chambers were not the sons of heaven themselves, but a shadowy army of men who had surrendered the very core of their humanity to serve. These were the palace eunuchs, castrated guardians of the imperial harem, spies, servants, and sometimes the deadliest power brokers in Chinese history. Their story is one of unimaginable pain, relentless humiliation, and a life stripped of everything a man was told made him whole. Welcome to the hidden horrors of life as a palace eunuch in Imperial China. The practice stretched back to the earliest dynasties, but it reached its brutal peak during the Ming and Qing eras, when tens of thousands of these incomplete men swarmed the palace grounds. Families in desperate poverty would sell their young sons, some as young as 8 years old, into this fate, believing a life inside the Forbidden City offered escape from starvation. Others, crushed by gambling debts or crime, chose the knife themselves in a desperate bid for status. But the price was eternal. To enter the inner court where the emperor's concubines lived, no intact male could remain after dark. Only eunuchs, rendered incapable of fathering children or even feeling desire, could be trusted not to defile the bloodline. It was a system built on the cruel logic that a man without a future could have no ambition beyond total loyalty to the throne. Yet loyalty came at a cost no one could truly prepare for. The horror began the moment a boy or man stepped into the castration chamber, usually run by licensed specialists known as daizhijiang or sometimes by desperate fathers in a filthy back room. There was no anesthesia, no mercy, just a small curved knife and the cold calculation of survival. The victim was tied down or held by assistants, while hot pepper water was splashed across his groin to numb the skin just enough to prevent immediate shock. In one swift, sickening motion, both the penis and testicles were sliced away in a single cut, as close to the body as possible. Blood poured freely until a metal or bamboo plug was jammed into the urethra to keep the passage open. The wound was then packed with water-soaked paper, bandaged tightly, and the new eunuch was forced to walk around the room for hours, supported on either side, to stop blood from pooling and causing fatal clots. For the next 3 days he was forbidden any water, any relief, lying in agony while thirst and pain tore through him like fire. If, on the 3rd day, urine finally flowed when the plug was removed, he was deemed healed enough to live. Many did not. Infections raged, fevers consumed them, and countless boys died screaming in those back rooms. Survivors carried the scars for life. Slow, painful urination that often required a special silver pipe to guide the stream, chronic incontinence that left them smelling of urine, and a body forever altered, taller than average with longer limbs, beardless faces, and high, childlike voices that marked them as freaks to the outside world. Even after the physical wound closed, the real torment had only begun. Many young eunuchs wet their beds for years afterward, a humiliating reminder of their lost manhood that followed them into the palace. Inside the Forbidden City, they entered a rigid hierarchy where the lowliest swept floors and carried chamber pots while the highest, like the directors of ceremonial, could whisper directly into the emperor's ear. Their days were endless drudgery, attending to the emperor's every whim at dawn, fanning concubines in the heat, tasting food for poison, spying on rivals, and enduring the casual cruelty of their masters. Emperors like the young Puyi, last ruler of the Qing, openly admitted to flogging eunuchs daily as a childish pastime, their screams echoing through the halls while he laughed. Palace ladies treated the youngest boy eunuchs almost like pets, dressing them in girls' clothes and using them for intimate tasks with no fear of impropriety, only to discard them when they aged. Yet the deeper wound was invisible. Cut off from family, forbidden to marry or adopt heirs in the traditional sense, these men existed in a permanent limbo, neither fully male nor female, despised by Confucian society as unnatural and unfilial. Many turned to opium dens hidden in the palace corners, gambling rings, or petty theft just to feel something, anything, besides the void. And yet, in this world of pain, some rose to terrifying heights, proving that even a body broken could still crave power. The most infamous was Wei Zhongxian of the late Ming dynasty. Born into poverty in 1568, he castrated himself to escape gambling debts and wormed his way into the court of the teenage Tianqi emperor. Exploiting the boy's disinterest in ruling, Wei became the de facto dictator of China. He controlled the secret police, issued fake edicts, purged thousands of honest officials, and built temples in his own honor while the empire crumbled around him. Concubines and eunuch allies helped him murder rivals and even force an empress to abort her child. For a few years he held the empire in his mutilated grip, a living warning that the very men trusted most because they could never found a dynasty were the ones most likely to destroy it from within. Other eunuchs followed similar paths, amassing fortunes through corruption, stealing palace treasures, and turning the inner court into a nest of intrigue where loyalty lasted only as long as the emperor's favor. But for every Wei Zhongxian, there were thousands of forgotten souls whose lives were nothing but suffering. They slept in cramped barracks, ate meager rations, and lived under constant surveillance by the Imperial Household Department, which enforced rules with whippings, beatings, or expulsion into a world that no longer recognized them. Many died young from infections or despair. Those who survived to old age faced a final indignity. Without their severed parts preserved and returned to them, they could not be buried whole, a final barrier to any hope of respect in the afterlife. By the end of the Qing dynasty in 1912, only a few hundred remained, their numbers dwindling as the empire collapsed. In 1924, the last emperor, Puyi, finally expelled most of them, though a handful lingered until the very end. The last imperial eunuch, Sun Yaoding, castrated at 8 in 1910 to save his bankrupt father, lived until 1996, carrying the physical and emotional scars of a vanished world. In interviews, he spoke softly of the agony, the loneliness, the way his body never felt right again. Yet he never regretted the choice that gave his family a chance at survival. The story of China's palace eunuchs is more than a gruesome footnote in history. It reveals the terrifying logic of absolute power, a system that demanded men destroy themselves to prove they could be trusted, then punish them for the very brokenness it created. Behind the golden dragons and silk robes, the Forbidden City hid a chamber of horrors where human beings were turned into living shadows, forever incomplete, forever in pain, forever serving a throne that saw them as little more than tools. Their voices, high and trembling, still echo through those empty halls today, a haunting reminder of the hidden price paid by those who dared to trade their bodies for a glimpse of imperial glory. If these walls could speak, they would scream the truth. Sometimes the greatest horror is not the knife itself, but the life that follows it.